There are some other candidates, some not tarnished by the Graham Plattner association, right? Troy Jackson's association with Graham Plattner would, possibly be weaponized against him. There are some issues with that because he did endorse Graham Plattner and they campaigned together. I don't know if that, but yeah, we're gonna start off with some Graham Plattner news. As you guys know, credible accusations came out on a Politico piece that has been the primary focus of the national run that the Democrats are on right now, considering that Graham Plattner, who was a relatively popular and left populist veteran, Blackwater mercenary, and all around red flag haver, has been outed as a rapist by one of his former girlfriends and a firestorm in Maine Democratic Party politics. Graham Plattner immediately said that the accusations were false, and then still obviously entertained dropping out regardless because, the accusations are not false. Okay, plenty of evidence for it. Regardless though, that's neither here nor there. I feel for the people of Maine, including the victim, especially the victim. There's been some back and forth. I think Graham Plattner wants to have a say in the process of who gets appointed, whereas the Maine Democrats are trying to figure out, are they going to do some kind of like election? Are they going to do some kind of like, super fast election? Are we going to relive the 2024 issues with the no primary that took place? Are the Maine Democrats going to select a candidate that is left populist in the similar vein to Graham Plattner's agenda that clearly was, regardless of his moral failings as an individual, his campaign was objectively popular, and that popularity led to 150,000 Mainers voting for him in the primaries. And of course, it's important to make sure that agenda is still is still followed through on. It's going to be quite difficult to make this swap. But in order to ensure that a left populist candidate takes on that role, whether it's by way of a special election or through a delegates process, hopefully the Maine Democrats do not this up, which of course they probably will. But let's see. So, per source, Plattner campaign has sent volunteers a 2-question survey with a 48-hour deadline. If the Democratic Party hopes to harness our movement and avoid disillusioning the hundreds of thousands of supporters who came into the fray because of our movement's policies, it must consult the feedback and proposals of the people who built and sustained this. Right? What message do you have for the Democratic Party? What message do you have for Graham? Another source passed on a text for the campaign. I'll just post text so I don't share the link. This is Ben Chin, Graham Plattner's campaign manager. We've said from the very beginning that this campaign was never about Graham, but a movement of working people united to take back power. But yesterday, the Maine Democratic Party said that our movement will have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, nor in determining what the process looks like. Instead, under their watch and direction, they allowed the D.C.-based Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee to send staffers to plan a potential nominating process behind closed doors. Both the state and national parties cut our team, our volunteers, and our vast networks of supporters out of the conversation completely. This is such a unique situation, and it's such a chaotic situation. But it's a unique situation because, obviously there's a lot of people who think that any association with Graham Plattner and the new person that they hand select is going to be negative. I don't agree with that. I don't think it will be negative because Graham Plattner is one person, whereas 150,000 Mainers that voted for him should have a say in this process, right? Not a lot of people who think that in Maine. Not a lot of people who think that in Maine. A lot of smooth brain people online, maybe. Yes. I am genuinely, look, I'm invested in making sure that Democrats maintain a Senate majority. Okay. And the Maine seat is pivotal for the Democrats to get a Senate majority. Okay. And clearly, in order for this process to take place, you have to ensure that there's not enough voter apathy. You have to ensure that there isn't so much voter apathy that the general election is cooked. Okay. That's precisely the reason why I'm talking not about Graham Plattner, the person, but about this movement and what people voted for. Okay. That's it. So that's something to pay close attention to. And it's very strange that a lot of people are not paying attention to it. They're just talking about Graham Plattner. They're not talking about the people that voted for him and how they feel right now, especially considering that their feelings are going to be quite important because you cannot hemorrhage any support if you want to defeat Susan Collins, right? Graham Plattner obviously also has some leverage here, despite the fact that he has been roundly criticized and condemned by virtually every single person. And every single major person that endorsed him, campaigned with him, has unendorsed him. He has no leverage? No, that's not true. He does have leverage. He could just stay in. Do you understand how much leverage there is right now in his hands? He could just be like, I'm going to stay. I'm not going to drop out. And then what? That's crazy. I mean, he could just cook this entire thing. He could destroy this entire process. That is not even, that's like we are hoping that a guy who was dumb enough to run and a bad enough person, a narcissistic enough person to be like, yeah, I got some rapes under my belt, but I'm running for office in this pivotal year, in this pivotal race. That guy could just as easily turn around and be like, yeah, I'm staying. What do you mean? Like we're hoping that he does the right thing. Okay, well, the doing the right thing would have been not running for this position. That would have been doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing would have been, hey, I got some weird stuff in my background. Take a look in the vetting process, which hopefully would have caused the people to say, yeah, we're not going to go with you. We're going to go with someone else. So we're expecting this guy to do the right thing on what? If you were to say he has no leverage, he should off, you categorically misunderstand the current predicament. He has maximum leverage. So, going back to this, Ben Shin, Graham Plattner, campaign manager, but yesterday the main Democratic Party said that our movement will have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, nor in determining what this process looks like. Instead, under their watch and direction, they allowed the D.C.-based Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee to send staffers to plan a potential nominating process behind closed doors. We firmly believe that the supporters and volunteers who built this movement deserve to have a real role in any nomination process. If the main Democratic Party hopes to harness our movement and avoid disillusioning the hundreds of thousands of supporters who came into the fray because of our movement's policies, it must consult the feedback and proposals of the people who built and sustained this. Your feedback will be sent to the main Democratic Party via this form. So yeah. And then there's a survey link, but I mean, I feel like that's a straight up, that survey link is going to get knocked. So I don't even like that they tried to do it like that. But do you think this is just a desperate attempt to stay in the race? No, I don't. I don't think so. I think he's trying to use his last level of, he's trying to use his leverage that he has to try to have somewhat of a say in the decision-making process here. But then again, I don't know. But I do know this. Out of all the scenarios, there are some where Susan Collins definitively wins. Okay? Susan Collins definitively wins for sure. Okay? If the Democratic Party comes in and by way of the main Democrats puts Janet Mills on that seat after she convincingly lost, right? There's no coming back from that. The people that voted for Graham Plattner are just going to be like that. Graham Plattner might even stay in the race in that process, right? And then you have to do a write-in candidacy for Pill's Mafia. Okay? And I don't even think they're going to do that regardless. I don't think they would do that because that is the dumbest thing that they could possibly do. That's the easiest defeat of all time. I think there are some other candidates. There are some other candidates, some not tarnished by the Graham Plattner association, right? Troy Jackson's association with Graham Plattner would, possibly be weaponized against him. There are some issues with that because he did endorse Graham Plattner and they campaigned together. I don't know if that is going to hurt him a lot because, like, the person that gets selected or gets elected by way of delegates or or directly through some sort of like direct democracy process in a special election, not entirely certain what they're going to go with here. The main Democrats, I don't know what they're going to end up choosing to do, but no matter what happens, like if there is an undemocratic process or if they're trying to like do a faithful swap out, that person has to be pro Medicare for all and anti-Israel, because those were the two top level issues for Graham Plattner that garnered a lot of support and a lot of attention. Okay, not talking about the person, talking about the campaign. So that's it. There's obviously arguments against there's also arguments against Graham Plattner endorsing a successor. One of the most common that I've seen from even members of this community is, if you like Troy Jackson, why do you want nonstop attack ads that go, Troy Jackson, handpicked successor of credibly accused rapist? This is delusional. And in your mental, this is exactly why I see the argument for someone like Shaw right now. Yesterday, I would have told you that Jackson was a slam dunk choice, but of course, this fucking psycho's ruining that too. I get that he was the moderate candidate of the primary. I get that he's probably an opportunist with his lefty position, but at the end of the day, you have 4 months here, and he comes off out of the gates with plus 10 faves at 70% name recognition, and he may not even be that opportunistic with stuff like Medicare for all. You could really do a lot worse, man. I don't agree with this assessment from Edinger Mentum, but new reporting from Sahil Kapoor from NBC News about Maine Democrats responding to the survey. Maine Democratic Party responds below after Plattner's campaign manager sends this text to supporters accusing the MDP of shutting his movement out of the process. So Maine Democrats are now aggressively posturing against Plattner for understandable reasons. Let's see. While the Plattner campaign remains focused on distracting from the job of defeating Susan Collins in November with false accusations against us, the Maine Democratic Party remains hyper-focused on developing a representative, transparent, and inclusive process to select a new nominee when he chooses to withdraw from the race. While we may be frustrated with Graham Plattner's continued efforts to manipulate this process, we are also thankful for his supporters and all their efforts to defeat Susan Collins. They are a vital part of our party and deserve to participate in an open process to select Plattner's replacement. Devin Murphy Anderson, executive of the MDP. Now, Devin Murphy Anderson is an interesting figure. Devin Murphy Anderson is also another, of course, centrist Democrat as well. Unsurprising to no one. So no matter who's picked, the Republicans will associate them with Plattner. They'd be stupid not to. Yeah. The Maine Democratic Party already did not want Graham Plattner. That's not a secret, for the record. They did not want Graham Plattner at all. Now, I think one of the easiest counters to this kind of oh, you guys actually had a rapist. You guys actually had a rapist in running for the Senate race, is that Susan Collins is the top gal of the head rapist, Donald Trump. So I don't think those lines of attack are going to be as successful regardless, considering that if and hopefully when Graham Plattner drops out, Democrats could just as easily turn around and be like, yeah, we actually force our rapists not to become the president and we don't defend them. So I don't think that is going to be a significant line of attack regardless. I think there's a very easy point that you can present in that situation. Hell, that doesn't even matter. Let's be real. Maine Morning Star reports Graham Plattner has come to terms with dropping out of the race, according to a person who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Plattner's top strategists are urging him to drop out, according to a source close to his campaign. I mean, that does make sense. That does make sense that they're there. especially because even when he, oh my God, Andrea LaFlame, that would be really funny. We carry LaFlame. So who is that? She was a writing candidate. She has like 4 IG followers and I am one. Yeah, she was a writing candidate that the blue sky liberals tried to put ahead of Graham Plattner. And I think one of the funniest things that took place in that race was that she got more retweets on Blue Sky than she got votes in this writing candidacy that she had. Like, I think she got like 800 total votes or something, which was very interesting to watch unfold. Yeah. For the record, the Republicans have been trying to, weirdly enough, talk about how, Democrats are putting forward rapists and stuff. And it's actually leading to very funny moments on television where, Scott Jennings, the man with the least amount of shame I've ever experienced in my whole life, is as a major supporter of Donald Trump, Scott Jennings still has the audacity to talk about how, like, oh, well, Democrats love rapists. It's like, well, dude, you're kind of the worst person to say that because your whole job is to defend Donald Trump on CNN, right? So let's take a look.
This latest victim, her politics were correct and his poll numbers were falling, so now they're able to get some courage when they had none before. They knew he was a scumbag before and they stuck with it.
So to be clear, if there is a credible allegation of either womanizing, domestic violence, or sexual assault, no one in a party should ever stand by the candidate.
So here's the problem. She got too excited, okay? She should have just let him respond, okay? She should have just let him respond.
Because if that is your statement, and I'd love to hear from you on this, if that is your blanket assertion, I got to tell you, Herschel Walker should have been out. Donald Trump should have been out of the race. You've got Roy Moore shouldn't have been running. I could go on in candidates, and I know that's not the ultimate test, but there's a hypocrisy.
It's tough. It's tough when you got a really good one in the chamber and you pop it. But unfortunately, I mean, she's right, and she makes a brilliant point here, brilliant observation that we've all made. But she should have held the alt and let my man speak.
To it. And I'm not in any way, just so we're clear, I have been a rape prosecutor. You know I'm not condoning any allegation of sexual assault. But the question I have politically for you, Embassy, is the idea of...
But this
looks like they've been polling for Plattner quietly per Politico. Plattner campaign quietly polls potential replacements as pressure mounts. The flash poll obtained by Politico was conducted by Public Policy Polling and commissioned by Graham Plattner's campaign, according to a person with knowledge of the survey who was granted anonymity to discuss it. It tested head-to-head matchups between Republican Senator Susan Collins and Plattner, along with 5 possible Democratic replacements for Plattner, including former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson and Secretary of State Shenna Bellows. Yeah, here is another one of these insane moments. Again, like, no Republican. Like, this is a intra-party affair, okay? Let's be real. We are having our inside conversation here, okay? Anytime a Republican tries to come into the conversation and tries use this as an opportunity to be like, see, Democrats love rapists or whatever, everyone should get together and immediately dunk on them, okay? Because, I'm sorry, you have no leg to stand on in this conversation. As a matter of fact, the grand old pedophiles party is probably upset that the victim was not a minor, but an actual adult. Okay? They're not mad that consent was violated. They're mad that it was an adult whose consent was violated and not a child who can't consent, because that's what they're used to. You do not get to have any say in this fucking process. If you're a Republican, you need to suck shit and shut the fuck up. Okay? Sorry, this is not a conversation you are allowed to participate in. That's it. That's my take. Maybe controversial, but you can't do that when Trump is president. You can't do that when Trump is the motherfucking president. When you got guys like, what's his face, Max Hill or whatever, who literally boiled his ex-wife's face with boiling water. Okay? Cry more? I mean, am I crying? Doesn't seem like I'm crying. Are you incapable of understanding different emotions? Is that what's going on? The pedo pardon party, the pedo protection party, does not get to have a say in this process. Okay? especially when what's going on here is someone being rejected by virtually every part of the party and beyond for being credibly accused of rape, something that Republicans do not do. As I said before, the Graham Plattner rap sheet has now officially reached the Pete Hegseth rap sheet. Nazi tattoos and credible rape allegations. He should be Secretary of War. No one on Fox News is allowed to criticize Graham Plattner or the Democratic Party. Sorry, you're not allowed. Max Miller. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Sorry. Where are we at? Oh, sorry. Oh, fuck. Yeah, you cannot complain about the Democrats when the Democrats are in a last-ditch effort trying to ensure that an alleged rapist is not on the fucking Democratic Party ballot, when it's probably better for their chances to keep him on and just solidify support behind him. Because if the Democrats operated in the same way that Republicans do, would do, they would just like double down, triple down, quadruple down and be like, shut the fuck up. You know, at least our rapist is raping adults. Your rapists rape children. That's the shameless play here. You know what I mean? That's the shameless play. Just running a lesser evil rape campaign. And ironically enough, centrist establishment Democrats have run this play in the past. Okay? They have done this. So the idea that the idea that like this is a new instance is ridiculous. They did this with Cuomo. Many of the people who are complaining about Graham Plattner right now were literally Cuomo backers, either worked with Cuomo in disparaging some of Cuomo's victims or even demanded that Cuomo run against Zohran Mamdani in the general. So like these people also are shameless charlatans. Okay? But if the Democratic Party right now, or if the left in general right now was similar in their operations to the Republicans in any way, shape, or form, they would just be doubling down on Graham Plattner's support and being like, yep, we got to do that. Sorry. We just got to get Susan Collins out. Shut the fuck up and vote for the rapist. You know, that's it. They're not doing that. We're not doing that. Okay? So just remember that. There's only one group of people in American politics that will immediately and unconditionally drop someone with a credible rape allegation, and that is the left. Okay? Establishment Democrats don't do that, with the exception of Swalwell. That was one of the only instances where I've seen the Democrats actually do that, right? And ironically enough, the party that certainly doesn't do that is the party of Roy Moore, the party of Donald Trump. So when I see Republicans talk about this issue, I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Congressman, you can take this in so many different directions. I am completely disgusted with the Democratic Party and this candidate, their nominee. But I am worried for the country. If they're going to continue to stand by their men until they can't any longer, we may end up with bad candidates, bad office holders. Until it's too late, they'll already be there.
Well, the key is what you just said there, which is they're standing by him until they don't believe that they can any longer. In other words, Democrats, to your point, had no problem with the Nazi tattoo that was on his chest. By the way, I don't have any friends who have Nazi tattoos on their chest, and I don't think that most Americans either. You have to go looking for somebody who has a Nazi tattoo.
Dog, you don't have to have a Nazi tattoo for us to know you're a Nazi. Your wife is literally Indian, and you spend every day talking about how every single brown person needs to be deported immediately. And last but not least, you don't know any veterans with Nazi tattoos? You're on Fox News. There is a veteran with Nazi tattoos that literally is now the Secretary of War, and he was a commentator on this fucking network. What the hell? Who the fuck are these people talking to?
Tattoo on their chest. They didn't have a problem with that. They didn't.
I guess it's because, well, I was about to say, Pete Hegseth also has the Templar tattoo on his chest. So technically, he's not even able to get away with semantics on that one. So yeah, there is not even, you can't even make a semantic argument, be like, well, Pete Hegseth's like kafir tattoos on his arm. Like, no, he has one on his chest too. As a matter of fact, that's the reason why he was not allowed to participate in protection detail during the inauguration. He wrote a whole book about it because the National Guard looked at his tattoos and said, hold on, that's a very common white supremacist tattoo. You're not allowed to do the protection at the inauguration for Joe Biden. He wrote a fucking book.
Didn't have any problem with multiple credible allegations of abuse from multiple women until very recently, until we find out that the latest woman who's made credible allegations is left-wing politically. They had no problem before. They have had no problem with the really unsavory, just frankly disgusting things that he's written on all kinds of different social media platforms, the messaging apps that he had been on that predators tend to frequent. They had no problem with any of that. What they have a problem with now is they've gotten to the point where they don't believe that he's a viable candidate anymore, so they want to jump in and replace him. That's a problem. We need decent people running for office, not people that are so transparently scumbags.
And Brandon, you're correct. This is about electability.
What the fuck is Austin Ox doing? Austin Ox. Hold on. Sorry. Austin Ox is fucking posting shit that I didn't say. Parker says he supports Charles Booker winning a special election, but that the likelihood of Thomas Massie winning is higher. That's not what I said. I said I support Charles Booker winning the overall election and giving a 4-month window to Thomas Massie potentially. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He misunderstood the statement I was making and he just like got me. He's about to get me fucking canceled. Fox Guy talks about decent people. His favorite president currently was on Epstein Island. Yeah, he's just like, weird question, but do you not believe him about the Nazi tattoo anymore? What do you mean? Look, I said from the beginning that his fucking Nazi tattoo, especially having it for as extended of a period of time as he did, was insane to me. It didn't make any sense. But what made the story even crazier was that the most famous photo of him with the Nazi tattoo out, shirtless, literally is during a Jewish wedding that he was at. Okay, so I don't know what the fuck is going on in Maine. Okay, the hell's going on that like so many people saw that and not a single person was like, hey, you know, that's like a very famous Nazi symbol, right? Like that you're rocking on your chest piece right there. But yeah, in any case, yeah, it's just he was screened by the military. I guess they didn't give a shit about it either, which is also strange, but I guess it makes sense. Me 11 beers deep, trying not to puke on a state trooper when he asked, do you know why? Holding in a little burpee, dude. She just had a little burp. She just had a little burp in her mouth. It happens to the best of us, okay? Well, Haley Stevens not the best of us, but Stevens is doing tech YouTuber GPU performance graphing. Yeah, graph crimes for sure. 42% to Abdul 41%. Finally, she got like one C-rated pollster to give her a marginal edge. Totally within the margin of error, by the way. And it's really funny that she was like, yep, we're winning. What gives? Israel struggling to control her body. Her true self is trying to break free out.